Oh, okay. I was waiting for a nod from you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Justin. My talk is going to be a little bit ranty because it is a last-minute fill-in for the previous talk that was not able to be happening. But obviously, Johnny, who's here for Johnny's talk, he did an excellent job. You guys should check it out in the video if you did not see it already. But this covers some of those topics, and I'm going to expand upon some more ideas on why you can improve your soft skills in our world and why they're important and what they can do to help you and to kind of get forward and reduce that creepiness factor that Johnny was speaking about. So obviously this is soft skills for a technical world, essential P2P skills for pretty much everyone. My name is Justin. I'm a senior systems administrator with a management company in Canton of Ohio. I have a background in both theater and live sound. I'm a designer, technician, and performer. I'm an organizer of B-Sides Cleveland, SynHack Makerspace in Cleveland, in Akron, and a board member of the NEO-ISF, which is the Northeastern Ohio Information Security Forum, and I can be found at this Twitter handle. When most of us can be considered probably the computer guy or gal with our own circles, our family, they might come up to us and ask us, hey, what can you go and fix this because you guys work in computers, but we all have our own specialties. So usually the public's thought of the computer guy is a person who is not only antisocial, but is unmotivated, grumpy. They might be a loner, social nerd, outcast. They may have a superiority complex and impossible to reason with. They might be ungroomed and unkempt. And we all know that these things can be true, but we also know that we also aren't stereotypes. And this is a real stereotype that we need to break out of. We're more than just, D&D basement playing people. We have personalities, we've got character, and we need to make sure that's shared with not only our peers, but also people outside of this conferences and people outside of the regular world. So I found a really interesting quote, and I have it posted next to my screen, and I try to remember it quite often, and that is, people in information technology tend to lack certain skills like empathy and social abilities. Folks in information tech divisions are famous in our industry for not getting along with people and their other parts of their companies. And if you think about that for a real second, we work in an industry, whether you work in the full security side or just IT, that we're service-based. What we deliver is help. We support. We try to secure. We try to facilitate as best we can, and of course meet the demands of our business. And we suck at it. We're just not doing it right, and we're not there. Our stereotypes are coming before us and painting the picture of who we are and how we're going to interact with other people. And for the most of us, we don't have to fit into this mindset. We do have skills where we can get up in front of people and talk and carry on conversations and be interested and carry on a basic conversation, even if they're not in InfoSec or anything else. But the stereotype states that we don't have that. We don't have empathy. We don't care. And so really when I was looking down to what makes those differences and why that is coming forward in the emotional intelligence, we're lacking those things, is really our soft skills. And so this talk really is kind of bound around those ideas and the core concepts of what we need to be aware of. And I feel like if we know what we need to improve upon, that's the first step of us getting better at it. So the first one is communication. Next was drive and attitude, our teamwork, ability of networking, problem solving, critical thinking, and professionalism. And I'm going to jump through each one, and I want to say a little bit about each topic, and maybe we can discuss some more, and we'll have some examples leading up a little bit later on. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you guys will have a little bit of idea on where you need to improve yourself. Soft skills are really important in every career field. They're important in your daily life. Johnny was mentioning about meeting a person just in the grocery aisle and just starting, popping into them and having a conversation, or getting along with anybody, or getting a request when you might need something of a favor. Those soft skills and social skills are really, really important. That's the whole reason that we evolve them. We are a social people because those are necessary. And they were necessary when we needed to barter and trade for, linens versus food, and was barter and trade, and it's important when we needed to require help from our neighbors, or required help with nothing and immediate return. And it's important now because that's what solves issues that we have internally of loneliness, of depression, of isolation, of technical doubt, and not enough depth in your skill. We create a common bond, a game, as Johnny had mentioned, a great concept, and that we've all kind of agreed that, like you said, pants are important, and pants are going to be required, and you have to go out with them. But at the same time, you need to be aware that everyone is expecting to play by these same rules, and those rules can change in groups and groups. And honestly, likability makes everything easier. If you're better on that likability score, less freaky, less creepy, less persistence necessary to achieve your outcome, things are just going to move smoother and easier. Soft skills are really the packaging that delivers your brilliance to your clients and your colleagues. If you improve upon these soft skills, you can improve upon every aspect in your daily life, and you'll find that not only your relationships are becoming much easier, but that technical concepts will come with more support. Ideas, when you do mess up, will be forgiven easier. It's really that kind of glue, or the packaging, or the connection that supports it. And of course, time saving. If you don't have to increase that persistence because you're liked more and you're able to communicate your ideas and work from there, it really improves your time in your life, because you don't have to spend as much time trying to drill into somebody to get a point across. So, types of communication. There's verbal, there's oral, nonverbal, written, and of course visual. And I'm going to break each one down on those, but verbal is obviously things that are sounds, language, your tones. Oral is your listening or hearing. That's when you're receiving things. Your nonverbal is your facial expressions, your body language, posture. Of course, got written, emails, grammar and spelling and diction, and of course visual, interpreting signs, symbols, and pictures. And when I was going through some of the research on these different topics, I didn't really think about the breakdown and how deep these could really get into, but hopefully I can help you understand a little bit. So verbal really starts with sounds, language, and tone of voice. So the sounds that you might make, grunts, or anything that doesn't have to do with language that could be interpreted, like laughter, that those make communications, bring out cues on how that person is feeling and how you were feeling to them. So the language, of course, is your vocabulary, your diction, choice of other words and grammar. Your accent can come into play, and whether or not their particular history and their relationship that they've previously had with people of that type. And your tone of voice. So if you've got a very deep tone and they have a very friendly uncle who's always had a very deep tone, they may feel more close to you versus a high and upbeat tone, and that comes into play. Oral communications. Since communications is kind of a two-way street, it's a commonality that we've all agreed on. You've also got things that are listening, not just hearing. And my battery dies. There's two different transactions. It's like comparing between reading Shakespeare drama versus seeing it performed by talented performers. That would be the two extreme. There'd be two different types of oral connection and communication. So you might hear something, but you might not really be listening, or you might observe those words being said. You know that somebody has said those types of things, but you're not really comprehending or putting time and thought and effort into understanding what they're trying to communicate back with you. And because of that, you're not able to reciprocate the further conversation. There's also nonverbal, got facial expressions, body language, posture. We can go into in depth about that, but really, in men, there's particular type of body postures that are appropriate, and for women, there's other type of body postures that are appropriate that we would normally find as agreeable or that fit into our social norms. So somebody who stands with their arms up here like this is obvious, and a wide stance is a much different body posture and would be received differently in the communication versus a person who's leaning with one foot up on the side, or a person who is stepping back like this with a lean back body posture, or somebody who's actually leaning in is interested. I want to know more about what you're saying. And you see that my face actually is changing to the way that my body posture is holding, and that's not me intentionally doing that. That's just reflexive. So when you start seeing yourself perform those types of actions, and you're thinking about it, and Johnny had mentioned about the regular IT body posture, the curvature of the back that comes over, and instead lifting yourself back up, your shoulders, being proud of what you have, being proud of your body posture, of your height. My great-grandmother used to say that, be proud of your height, and it's paramount. And the interesting thing is these things are all things that we have known for years and years and years and years, way before any of us got into IT, way before technology was even around that we normally work with every day. These are ingrained skills that are, like I said, part of our neuro-linguistic programming, part of our mindset of being these social constructs, and we forget them, and we think that just because we can communicate via a screen and text, that's all that's going to be necessary to a person who may be seeing them in person and face-to-face. Written communication, there's a lot of things that can go around, including like emails or texts, letters, memos, text messages, chats, messages. All of these things are forms of written communication, and we usually have that kind of down where we can communicate with a person appropriately. We know that, if you're going to send a memo to a department, you probably shouldn't use, profanity or slang. While, if you're in a chat or messenger with your friend or something like Confidant, you can speak in a little more candor and personality. Not some people have more of an issue with this, but us, usually we've understood these kind of constructs. And we just need to remember that these same constructs that we've learned to adapt to and understand exist in all the domains of these communications. And we need to be aware of them and bring them forward and use them to our advantage. Written communication, there is the diction, grammar, spelling, and this is where I have a lot of issues at. I'm not a great speller, and I'm not a great in grammar, and I know that my wife, God bless her, is much better at it than me, and I use her, and you should try to find a person also who you can bounce your writing off of, and try to improve, find ways to rephrase topics and make them concise without being too wordy or too technical, but at the same time using appropriate spelling and grammar when you're doing so. And of course, visual communications. You create signs or symbols or pictures that help a person interpret your ideas. So I might be drawing out a flow chart or something like that. These are methods that I can use to communicate with another person. And so I might use these different aspects to connect with them. And they may not be in full written form, but I'm able to add to the visual and auditorial connections that I'm creating. Part of the social skills that are also real important is, of course, your drive and attitude. And Johnny mentioned previously about this. This is your tenacity and empathy. These come really into play. You want to have some persistence, and you want to know what the right level of persistence is when you meet a group of people. But at the same time, you need to have empathy and understand that now may not be the best time to jump into a conversation, or that conversation might be more private, and you'll be breaching into that, and not get that freaky awkwardness that's building off. Teamwork, you've got cooperation, contribution, giving and receiving, responsibility, respectfulness, sharing. All of these things, if you guys are interested in trying to improve on your teamwork, there's tons of B-sides and organization groups that are looking for more help where you can build some of these skills of providing more back to the group. And this is what's going to build those communication skills and help improve your soft skills, so that way when it comes time for a more adept leadership role, you can take that on because you've built these teamworking abilities up. Johnny had mentioned about the networking, but one of the key things I think he forgot was the hidden job market. How many jobs that are out there that they don't post on Monster or Indeed or Job Finder or any of these other locations that are just, oh, I remember talking to you at Converge, and it was a great talk we had, and it seemed like you knew a lot about ASP programming or SIM technologies or incident response or whatever else. And I've still got his card. I'm going to pull that out and give him a call, see if he's still interested in taking the position I might have, because I've known him as being a pretty cool dude. He's not very creepy to me, so why wouldn't I give him the first opportunity? Or, you know what? I know that one guy who works on the GitHub page that working on a particular program, and I know this is a little bit different, but I've got an idea that I'm trying to work on this new business plan, or I've got this idea for a new phase of our program that we're trying to develop out. I wonder if he'd be interested in trying to perform some consulting. It's the hidden job market. It exists all the time, and it's always existed. I think it's something that we need to remember that still exists and try to push for that. Creating collaboration between people, and that's where you talk about the job market. You're talking about collaboration of building ideas. We had a particular speaker in here a little bit early ago talking about creating an InfoSec card game. And we spent a good 25 minutes all collaborating and discussing on ways that could be kind of cool and interesting and make it even better. And that's an awesome way that just because we're able to build conversation and networking, we're able to create more collaboration and assist him in his project. And obviously it's going to be something that's going to be really awesome, really great in the future. And one of the key things is being willing to ask for help. One key way to help strengthen a relationship between two people is to create a demand or a request a favor from a person. Ask them, when you're asking them where they found their shoes or providing a compliment, as Johnny had given an example, you're actually requesting for help. You wanted to know where they found those shoes at. How did they find them? And they were going to want to discuss those and provide more context to what that is. And not only are you creating more of a lengthening time of that relationship, but you're actually, in their mind, strengthening that connection. And so be willing to ask for help. Be willing to state, I don't know. What do you think? Creating that that demand. And of course, if you know what's going on, if you have an idea, being available for mentorship. We have a huge demand in our industry where we need to have more people, and we need to have aggressive minds and people who are willing to help. And we have a good basis of some knowledge that's here. We just need to be able to provide mentorship. And some people say, well, hold on, I've only been in the business for 5 years. But the thing is, information security hasn't been around all that long. So 5 years is a long time, for the whole basis. So you have a deep amount of knowledge. You've got to be willing to share that with those junior people, with the people that are just interns who might be leaving in 6 months because summer's over. It doesn't matter. Provide them some assistance, provide them some knowledge, help them get an edge, because when it comes around again, they're going to be available to help you, and they're going to be available to facilitate more of a connection. And of course, improve your skills as being not only a leader, but a person who can support our industry and create a larger base. Commonly at these talks, there are, these conferences, there's abilities for free or low-cost tickets. If you're on Twitter and you see a person who's, I know I commonly volunteer for a lot of them, and I'll throw extra tickets right at anybody who's getting into the industry. You should try to do the same. I encourage you to, because it honestly, the more faces that we have, the bigger connection that we can have, and the bigger influence that we can make in the world. And I think that's really, really important for improving that networking connection. Critical thinking with soft skills, obviously you don't want a dullard when you're talking with another person. That's where that attractiveness level can just, visually you may be way up there, but if you can't carry on any sort of functional conversation and create a critical thinking, it's just dropping it down, and you're going to adjust. That's why I believe it's part of Johnny's equation might needs to include time in there, because if you can't perform problem solving or thinking on your feet, assessing problems or finding solutions, you really have missing some critical assets to your relationship about the soft skill. So you need to be able to look at another person and evaluate how the conversation is flowing, evaluate what their interests are, and of course find solutions for ways that they may be either seeking knowledge or they just want you to listen and on what's going on. I had thought about having a part of a getting started area here, where I was going to encourage you guys to kind of step out of your comfort zones and do some more. And I think what I'm going to do is, who's going to be here tomorrow? You guys? Okay. There's supposed to be still some vendors, and what I'm going to challenge all of you guys to do is I'd like for you to really just take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes and walk to the vendor and just talk with them. Because here's the thing, the vendors are, for the most part, sales. They have sales in their name. And part of their function is that they probably have some good soft skills as being a salesperson. Take a lesson from them. Ask them what their interests are. Or ask them what their products are about. You may not care too much about it. You may not be the person who's going to make too difference. You may think that their product is worthless because you can do it so much simpler and easier because you've got an open source thing, or you already use this other blinky blocks, or whatever the case is. But let them talk. Respect them. Find out what their interests are. And use that lesson of what the techniques that they use, because they're going to ask open-ended questions when you come by. Say, what do you do? What do you use? What are your interests? Any particular problems you guys got going on? And we normally in IT and information security, we usually immediately turn that off. We say, oh, this is a salesperson, or this is a VAR trying to just find out what my next thing is. They just want me to make a sale. They just want to push. But the case is, they're really trying to generate a conversation. They're trying to be an asset to you. And if you use the people, some of these vendors out here, you can build skills from there just by watching some of the things that they do. I think it's an important skill that I think we all too often try to shut people out. And like Johnny said, try to be adventurous and step out beyond your comfort zone. Go beyond just sitting as a wallflower on the room, or just in the IRC channel, or going to play Destiny and sit in your basement and not do anything else. And that basement may be only your circle of friends. It may be only the people that you always talk with. I come to the information security forum, and they come to the conferences, and I only talk to these 3 people because these 3 people are part of my group, and these 3 people are from my area, from Akron or Cleveland or Cincinnati or wherever we're at. And I only talk to them because I know them. I know their names, and I feel real good. What about instead you meet another person and you instead invite them to your group? Find out whatever interests they have. People love to talk about themselves, and it's one of the key things. He talked about neurolinguistic programming. They love to just expand upon the stories that they have. And if you can spend more time having them talking about themselves, you're going to create more of a strengthening connection. He talked about time dilation, but really what you're doing is you're strengthening the neural pathways that are happening. Because if you do an action once, you've done it exclusively once. But when you do it the second time, you're actually strengthening the bonds between the neurons and allowing them to be more of a memory responsive. So when they think back and they think about a connection, you actually encompass time between point A and point B between that, and you actually build upon those connections. So encourage people to join your group. Encourage people to go out to dinner, to talk to people that you've never talked with before. Give them compliments. Find out questions from them. Ask them a favor to build upon the relationship. That's the one ways that you're going to build upon having more social skills, excelling in the workforce, excelling in your life, and just all around having an easier time as we go through this mortal event that we're having. So with that, I'm going to offer some questions because I'm going to still have a closing, and I know it's a little bit short, but yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
How does your theater background prepare you for this? Do you find yourself using that a lot? Or
I did both on-stage and backstage work. So when I began, I started at a very younger age, probably around, 10 or 11. And, you'd go through not knowing anybody and having to be responsive and reading lines and playing characters. And you build relationships off of that. And then at the same time, you need to be flexible because things can instantly change. So you need to have quick problem solving. You need to be adaptable to the relationships that are occurring. And at the same time, be willing to be flexible with changes in casting or technical needs. It was really important when you're obviously doing auditions because you want to build a rapport with people very quickly, and improv obviously comes into play. That's what recommended a lot of times. Comedy are real important, but I would definitely recommend both of those, and those are some of the skills that I try to employ when I'm building that.
It does seem a lot of community theater really emerging and elite.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to see.
Well, the thing is, it's always kind of, it's been around so long. It's kind of took it a die down, but it's been rebuilding back up as Hollywood's been churning out more and more, less than ideal, stellar ideas that we want to have a connection with the human people that are around us. And, jumping into either comedy or performing arts of any sort of type helps build those skills and working with other people. I think musicians have the exact same connection. If you're willing to, jump into a jam group or head into an open mic or something like that where you can adapt and work with people, give a person a compliment, find out their technique. Because the thing is, none of us have all of the answers. I don't stand up here is because I have a PhD in soft skills. I'm just a dude who thought that there was kind of a need for a talk and thought that I could help in some way, threw it up, and someone said, hey, I'd like to hear more about that. And I encourage everybody to kind of do that. You can have any sort of background that you're in, you have some sort of mastery of it, and just bring that forward. Anyone else? Yeah.
Do you have a plan for when you are genuinely interested in something else, but they just don't want to talk about themselves?
Yeah. A lot of times, people have a shell that they'll build up upon themselves, or they'll have a slight distrust, because you're looking for the three things. What do you want? How long are you going to be with me? And when are you going to be away? If they're not opening up and they're really having some issues and they want to know more, you could always tell them a little bit about, so that way you provide some sort of trust barrier. After that, if they're not really opening up beyond that, they may be a person that you just don't want to spend too much more time with. And that's why I don't know if I mentioned it, but it is really important that if a person does come up to you and try to perform some of these actions, you might want to recognize that they are also attempting to be open with you and create a conversation. So, be willing to talk a little bit about yourself if that person is requesting. But, if you've asked 2 or 3 questions about hey, where'd you get your hat, man? I really like that hat. What do they call that again? Or where'd you get your jacket? Or hey, I really liked your talk earlier. Or I heard you guys were talking about software-defined radio. What what can you tell me more about that? Or how'd you hear about that? If they're just shutting down or one-word answers, they may be a person where they're not ready to open up and carry on a conversation. You hope that in the future they could, but it's not your job right then to, reprogram them to be a different person. We just want we want everybody to obviously feel comfortable. We want to avoid being pushy because, you saw the more pushy, aggressive that you are, forwardness of it, you get more freaky and awkward. So try to avoid hitting those levels, but at the same time, building open-ended questions that would facilitate communication. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point. You'll get people who are asking for obviously things that that, or you anticipate what they want you to, their request from you. Point in fact, the person who's at the salesperson at the mall trying to sell you a cell phone plan that is crappy, and that you already have a cell phone plan and whatnot. That aggressive, pushy person, you could try to ignore them. You could engage them and ask them questions upon themselves, and then close that conversation down very quickly. You could try to dodge the conversation by incorporating other demands or time constraints that you may have, like I'm so sorry, I gotta go. Let's talk a little bit later. Let's find some more interests. But you got to kind of weigh those costs out and try to interpret what their needs are. Okay. With that, thanks so much.